What happens when sharks lose control? Part 1. Hook. In the ocean, there's a moment when control disappears, when instinct takes over completely. No hesitation, no strategy, only movements, only reaction. And once it begins, nothing can stop it. Part 2. Word introduction. Beneath the surface of the ocean, everything appears calm, endless blue, slow currents, silence stretching in every direction. But this calm is deceptive, because here every movement matters. Every bright vibration is noticed. Predators patrol vast territories, moving with precision, conserving energy, waiting for the right moment to strike. Among them, few are as efficient as sharks. They do not waste motion. They do not chase without reason. Every action is calculated, guided by senses far beyond sight. Electrical signals, pressure changes, the faintest trace of blood in the water. For most of the time, they are in control, measured, precise, and but sometimes that control breaks. And when it does, the ocean itself seems to change. Part 3. Survival rules. In the ocean, control is everything. Energies must be conserved. Movement must be precise, because even the greatest predator cannot afford to waste effort. Sharks are built for efficiency. They sense the world in ways few creators can. Electrical signals, tiny pulls from the muscles of other animals, detected through specialized organs along their snout. Pressure changes in the water, revealing movement long before it is seen, and scent, so sensitive that even the faintest trace of blood can travel across distance. Individually, these senses are controlled, focused, and when they combine, something else can happen. A trigger, small at first, a single interface, a sudden burst of movement, a drop of blood spreading through the current. One shark reacts, then another, and another. The signals multiply. The water fills with overlapping cues, movement, vibration, scent. Feeding behavior, it responds, amplifies the next, until control begins to fade. This is not strategy, not cooperation. It is escalation, a feedback loop of instinct, The more activity there is, the stronger the reaction becomes. Speed increases, precision decreases, boundaries disappear, and in that moment, the shark is no longer a solitary hunter. It becomes part of something else, a system driven entirely by stimulus and response. What follows is known as a feeding frenzy, not organized, not controlled, only movement, only reaction, and once it begins, it does not slow easily. Because in the ocean, when this thing takes over, there is no pause control. There is no pause button. Call look, Predatory Block 1. At first, nothing seems different. A school of fish moves together through open water, shifting direction as one. Their bodies flashing silver beneath filtered light, calm, coordinated, safe. As long as they remain together, then a break in the pattern. One fish hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, a shift, a mistake so small it should not matter, but it does. From below, a shape emerges. Fast, precise, a shark strikes. The school explodes outward, scattering in every direction, breaking the formation that once protected them. Chaos replaces order. The injured fish struggles, its movement uneven now, leaving behind something invisible but powerful, a trail, blood. It spread through the water, slow at first, then wider, carried by currents, reaching farther than the eye can follow. Somewhere in the distance, another shark reacts. A subtle change in direction, a shift in speed, drawn by something it cannot ignore. Closer now, the first shark circles back. Faster, less controlled. The signals are increasing. Movement, blood, panic. Everything intensifies. Another shadow appears. Then another, the water begins to fill with motion, the shark, reacting not only to the prey, but to each other. The space tightens, the energy builds. What began as a single strike is becoming something else, something unstable. The interface tries to escape, but there is no direction left to go, no formation to return to, only open water and closing distance. The first collision happens fast, too fast to follow. A blur of bodies, a burst of movement, then another and another. The pace accelerates. The water chunks. Order disappears completely. This is no longer a hunt. It is the beginning of a loss of control. And once that line is crossed, there is no turning back. Call mini story block 2. It happens all at once. No signal, no command, just escalation. The water erupts into motion. Sharks collide into the same space, drawn by overlapping signals. They can no longer separate. Blood, movement, vibration, everything blends into one overwhelming surge. Speed increases. Control disappears. Bodies twist and turn in rapid bursts. Striking from every direction is movement, triggering another. There is no clear target anymore, no single prey, only reaction. A shark lunges not at a specific fish, but at motion itself. Another crosses its path, too close, too fast. There is no time to adjust. They collide. Teeth snap through water that no longer hold meaning. The frenzy feeds itself. It strikes as more chaos. Its movement amplifies the next. The school of fish is gone, scattered beyond recognition. What remains is the storm. Water churns violently, bubble rising. Currents disrupted. Visibility collapsing into fragments of movements and shadow. Even the sharks lose orientation. Direction becomes irrelevant. Only instinct remains faster, closer, more. A sudden strike lands, but not on prey, on another shark. A mistake. But in this case, mistakes do not stop anything. They become part of the system. The energy peaks, unstable, uncontrolled. At its maximum, this is no longer hunting. It is consumption. A feedback loop that has reached its limit, and then, just as suddenly, it begins to break, because even chaos cannot sustain itself forever. Look, mini story block 3, and then it stops, not gradually, not slowly, just ends. The movement fades first, speed drops. The, the violent bursts of motion disappear as they began. The water settles, clouded for a moment, then clearing what remains is silence. The sharks are still there, but they are different now, separated again, individual, no longer connected by the same overwhelming signal, they move more slowly, more deliberately, as if nothing had happened, as if the chaos never existed. The space that moments ago was filled with frantic motion is now empty. No school of fish, no structure, no order to return to, only fragments drifting in the current. The ocean absorbs everything quickly, efficiently, without memory. One shock that passes through the area where the frenzy occurred. Uninterested now, unaware of intensity that existed just moments before, because for it there is no reflection, no awareness of what just happened. Only the present, only the next signal, the next movement, the next opportunity, and in that contrast, the truth becomes clear. This was never a battle, never a decision, only a movement, a moment when instinct overrode everything else and then released it. But not every loss of control ends without consequence, and not every frenzy is limited to the ocean alone. Call Mini Story Block 4. Far out in the open ocean, something begins to sink. Slowly, silently, a massive body descends through the water, a whale, no longer alive. At first, there is nothing around it, for just depth, just darkness below, but not for long. A single shark appears, drawn by something faint but unmistakable. It circles once, carefully measured. It is not the same as before, no sudden movement, no chaos, just opportunity. It approaches, takes a bite, and in doing so, changes everything. The water carries the signal outward, stronger now, wider, faster. Another shark arrives, then another, different size, different species, all drawn to the same source. At first there is space between them, distance, control, each feeding in turns. But the longer it continues, the more the signals overlap. Blood disperses, movement increases. The energy builds again, slowly, inevitably, until the shift happens. The first collision, accidental, but enough. The pace changes instantly. More sharks arrive. The space tightens. Control begins to slip. Bodies push closer. Bites become faster. Less precise, the massive carcass becomes the center of a storm, a vortex of motion, teeth, and instincts. Even size no longer matters. Last shark push through smaller ones dart between them, taking risks they would never take alone. Everything converges, everything reacts. The frenzy returns, but larger, heavier, more intense. The water darkens with movements. The carcass breaks apart under the force of repeated strikes. What was once a single body becomes fragments, scattered, consumed, and still the motion continues until finally there is nothing left to sustain it. The energy collapses again. The sharks drift apart, slowing, returning to distance, returning to control, and the ocean closes over what remains, as if it was never there. But not every loss of control is driven by food, and not every frenzy is natural. Column Predatory Block 5 is some parts of the ocean. The frenzy does not begin on its own. It is created. A boat trips above deep water, still quiet. But below, something is about to change. A light drops into the ocean, attached to it, bait, artificial, controlled, but to the sharks, undistinguishable from opportunity. The first one arrives quickly, drawn in by scent. It circles once, then again, cautious, measured, just like before. But then more bait enters the water, more scent, more signals, too many, too concentrated. The balance breaks almost immediately. Another shark appears, then another. The space tightens unnaturally fast. There is no natural spacing, no gradual escalation. Only intensity are compressed into a single point. The sharks react faster than they would in the wild, more aggressively, less controlled. The feeding begins. But this time, it is different. The signals do not behave naturally. They do not fade. They do not disperse the same way. They persist. Constant, overstimulating. The frenzy builds, but without the rhythm of the wild. Without limits, sharks cross paths repeatedly, too close, too often. Their movements overlap in ways that rarely happen naturally. Mistakes increase, collisions, misjudged strikes, energy wasted. What should be a controlled response becomes something distorted, something forced. Above the surface, everything appears calm, controlled, but below, the system has been pushed beyond its natural design, and the sharks react the only way they can, through instincts, amplified, unfiltered, uncontrolled, until eventually the base is gone, the signals fade, and just like that the frenzy ends, leaving behind nothing except the echo of something that shouldn't have happened that way. And across the ocean, this kind of disruption is becoming more common. Part 5. Expansion. For millions of years, sharks have existed within a system of balance. They hunt when necessary, they conserve energy, they respond only to signals that matter. Everything is controlled, everything has a limit. But now, those limits are being burst. Across the ocean, human activity is changing how signals behave. Fishing, jamming, discarded remains. All of it introduces a natural concentration of scent and movement into the water, signals that were once rare and now constant. For a predator built to respond to these cues, it creates a problem because instinct does not distinguish between natural and artificial. It only reacts, and when those signals become too frequent, too intense, the system begins to shift. Feeding behavior changes, patterns become less predictable, responses become more aggressive in situations where they normally could not because sharks are changing by choice, but because the environment around them is no longer consistent. At the same time, prey populations are affected. Some decline, others move. The balance between predator and prey becomes unstable. And in that instability, events like feeding frenzies may become more frequent or occur in places they normally wouldn't. But the most important thing to understand is that the shark itself has not changed. Its instincts are the same. Its behavior follows the same rules it always has. What has changed? In the world those instincts are reacting to, and when that word sends the wrong signals, even the most efficient predator can appear to lose control. Part 6. Ending. In the end, the shark does not choose chaos. It does not seek it. For most of its life, it moves with precision, control, purpose. Every motion calculated, every response measured. The frenzy is not who is he, it is only a moment, a reaction, when too many signals collide at once, when instinct is pushed beyond its limit, because in the ocean, control depends on balance, on signals that make sense, on a world that behaves the way it always has. But when that changes, when signal overlap, distort, multiply, even the most refined predator can appear to lose control, not because it had changed, but because the rules around it no longer hold. And in that moment, what we see as chaos is simply instinct, trying to respond to a world that no longer speaks clearly. Across the ocean. The same pattern continues. Calm, control, silence until something shifts, until signals align in just the wrong way. And for a brief moment, everything breaks, then fades again, as if it never happened. But somewhere beneath the surface, another trigger is already forming, another signal waiting to spread. And when it does, the ocean will once again remind us that control was never as permanent as it seemed.